Welcome to The Drive with your automotive experts and hosts, Lauren Fix and Karl Brauer. Each week we deliver the latest breaking news, vehicle reviews, and inside look at what's happening in the automotive world. Buckle up. It's time to hit the road with The Drive.
Welcome back to The Drive with Lauren and Karl. I'm Lauren Fix.
And I'm Karl Brauer.
Today we're going to talk about some really interesting themes because what happened in 2025 is going to impact what's happening in 2026. And you're going to see some big changes because it was a very disruptive year for the automotive industry with a massive shift in momentum from electric cars to the rise of hybrids and plug-in hybrids, plus Chinese automotive global dominance, the introduction of tariffs in both the US and in Europe markets. And that has caused a lot of issues because China's dominance has a massive financial impact on Ford, Stellantis, Nissan, and Volkswagen.
Yeah, the year was, I don't think, one that anyone could have predicted, even on December 31st of 2024, Lauren. I mean, that they're just massive shifts across the board. And we're gonna see the fallout going on, not just in 2026, but really for years to come on what happened last year.
I agree. I think one of the things people notice is the price of cars got real expensive. You've covered that on IC cars. I mean, you're looking at like $50,000 for a car, when previous to COVID, it was $36,000. It's a huge price jump. And of course, then we had the chip shortage, and all of that has impacted what's happening in today's market.
Yeah, and I think affordability really became an issue. And it always surprised me how many cars continued to sell, new and used cars. They continued to move off the lots. But you just could feel there was a larger and larger percentage of consumers out there getting priced out, even though there was still enough left to sell 15 million new cars and plenty of used cars.
You're right. And then one thing I've noticed also that started in 2025, which I think is a huge mistake. Please don't do this. These super long-term loans and leases that are way outside the warranty. You'll see 10-year loans on a brand new car.
Yeah.
Most people don't own their car that long, and they think, 3-5 years. Okay, 5 years makes sense on a purchase of a new car, but not on a lease. I'm seeing leases that go 5 to 7 years. I mean, Karl, that's crazy. It's such a bad investment.
I know. And also on the purchase side, we talk about depreciation all the time on the show. Of course, we're studying it. I'm looking at the numbers all the time at IC Cars. And to have a 10-year loan or even an 8-year loan, the amount of time you're quote unquote underwater, that car is worth less than you owe on it. If anything happens and you suddenly need that money back, you're going to have to get rid of the car and still not have enough to pay off the loan because of the value of the car. And what you end up paying in total for the car after an 8 or 10-year loan, you're buying a $40,000-$50,000 car and you're paying $75,000 for it because you had an 8 or 10-year loan on it.
It makes no sense. And then I always have a rule. If you're going to lease a car, never lease it longer than the warranty. So if it's 3 years, 36,000 miles, then it's a 3-year lease. If it's a brand like Volkswagen, it's a 4-year, 50,000 mile mortgage, or a mortgage. It kind of is a purchase or a lease. And then it does feel like a mortgage at times. Some of these $1,000 payments are absurd. I don't think I paid that much in my first house. And then the only exception would be Hyundai, Kia, Genesis with their 10-year, 100,000 mile product line warranty.
Yeah.
I would never lease or purchase a car for that long period of time. You get bored with the car, things can go wrong, and then you're stuck and you're upside down.
Can you imagine you're on a 5-year lease and it's 4.5 years in or 4 years in, and you're in a luxury car that typically has 336 for their drivetrain and the transmission goes?
Oh,
And you have to
big
keep
bill.
the car. The transmission is $10,000 to repair, and you can't do anything but repair it because you're stuck for another year in that lease. It's unbelievable.
And you can't get out of the leases. Yes, there is swap a lease, which is a really interesting thing to do. And that's typically not in your favor. It's good if you need to get out. Maybe you're moving out of the country or your financial reasons. But for most people, once you get that lease, you're locked in. You're not getting out of it. It's not like a mortgage where you can sell the house.
Can you imagine you're on swap a lease? Yeah, I'd like to swap my 4-year-old Audi. The transmission's gone, by the way.
Yeah. And I want to swap with you. I don't think that's going to
People will
happen.
be lining up to swap for that car, won't they?
Yeah. I mean, it's
so-
interesting, the changes, and the impact has been to brands that have really been struggling. Like Nissan is probably one of the biggest struggles that's going on right now. New leadership. And I think one of the concerns I have for Nissan is they got to get rid of those CVTs, those constant velocity or variable transmissions. People don't like them. And I think CVTs are a big problem across the line. Some brands have got it figured out, but most of them have not.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like Honda's execution on the CVT is a little better. It doesn't
Mhm.
feel as intrusive in the driving experience, but CVT is one of those technologies, much like electric assist steering and auto stop start.
Oh, yeah.
No engineer, Lauren, in the history of the car ever said, you know what we're going to do to make this car more engaging and more enjoyable for the driver? We're going to add auto stop start, a continuously variable transmission, and electric assist power steering. Those will all make the car better to drive. No engineer ever said that. We know what
No.
drove those, and it wasn't making the car better.
No, it's true. And then the EPA has removed the requirement for start-stop technology. I covered that on my Car Coach Reports channel. The NHTSA, which is the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, has not removed it officially. It's still listed in the mix, and it used to just be a checkbox so they could say they could save a half a mile to the gallon to increase their miles per gallon. So they could put it on the window sticker that was under the corporate average fuel economy. That is hopefully going to be removed in 2026. We've been pushing for that. So if you do want it removed and you're not a fan of start-stop technology, it's time to send an email or some sort of communication to Lee Zeldin at the EPA and Sean Duffy at the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, NHTSA, and they hear us and they're making changes that will actually benefit you and the car that you purchase.
Wow. See, that's great stuff. A good example of what changed in 25 and what's going to be reflected in 26.
Yep.
All right, we're going to be back with more of this because there's a lot to discuss. So join us right after this break with Lauren and Karl as we continue to talk about what happened in 25 and what's going to happen in 26. Welcome back to The Drive with Lauren and Karl. I'm Karl Brauer.
And I'm Lauren Fix.
Hey, and this segment is brought to you by IC Cars at iccars.com. They've got all the listings that you want to see for new and used cars across the country or in your local area. You can filter on either one. And they've also got a lot of great data crunching they've done. I'm the executive analyst there, and I help them kind of figure out what's the next big story coming for consumers. And we love telling you that. So they're not only buying cars, but you're knowing which cars to buy based on what's happening in the market. So, Lauren, we started getting into what happened in 25 and some of the major events that have really caused some shifts. And
Yeah.
I think it's important to think about this kind of pivot that we mentioned on the EV side. Okay, the EV momentum completely shifted in 25. And I think a lot of people are out there saying, yeah, that's because various politicians came in and killed it. And I always want to make sure people understand the market share for new EVs was stalling at about 8% nationally before the election in 2024. Okay. And the same thing in Europe, even too. Everyone's like, well, that's just stupid Americans. The global economies have figured out no, it started to slow down in Europe too. This is not a policy driven shift. This is a market driven shift that's caused the EV momentum to be dropped, and that a lot of the manufacturers are shifting back toward internal combustion or hybrid vehicles. So I think it's very important that people understand that. And the other one I want to bring.
Yeah. Toyota was the one who was paying attention. They took a lot
Yeah.
of heat. Boy, the social justice warriors went after them, but look who's the smartest one here in the end.
Exactly. And I always enjoy telling that story because you and I were in a lot of these quote unquote scrums with a lot of our colleagues, and a lot of them would pull out the tisk, tisk, tisk. Where's your EVs? Where's your EVs?
Yeah.
And Toyota would politely say, we don't invest in bad business models. They never said that. They just said that in much more creative and PR friendly words. But I loved when hearing their response because I could tell that's what they were saying is we're not going to waste money in what we know is a failing business model. And everyone tisk them. And now they look like, again, the smartest guys in the room. So as I like to tell people, you can bet against Toyota and maybe this time you'll be right. But the record there on doing that has not been good. But go ahead and give it a try this time around.
No, you're right. And look at the long list of canceled electric vehicles that have been hyped up. And we've driven them all. I mean, I remember seeing you at all of these, the F-150 Lightning, where they told us it'll tow for 300 miles with a heavy load behind it. Well, that wasn't true. We've talked to people at TFL Cars, and a couple other people have done tests and found you get like 80 miles of range. So you spend an hour towing, an hour charging. That was not going to work for the consumer. And then the Nissan Ariya, which is now gone as well, or one of the ones I really loved, and I think it won a North American Car and Truck of the Year vehicle, was Volkswagen ID Buzz, which I love that little, and I don't like electric cars, but I will tell you that was so much fun to drive.
Lauren, I had one here almost exactly a year ago. Actually, it was near Christmas time, or right at the end of the year,
Mm.
back in 24, and I had so much fun driving it because it drives really well,
It
and the
does.
interior is fabulous, and it's got all this functionality. Everything about that car, I mean, you and I said this to each other. We love everything about the car except the
But
drivetrain.
yeah,
It had a 240 whatever it was, 234 range. It's punching a big hole in the air because of its proportions and its dimensions. And I would be driving it, and even by electric car standards, where it's like, well, you got to be kind of take a grain of salt with those ranges. I'm driving the thing thinking I'm going to go show it off to a friend and come back and then charge. And I'm like getting to the friend's house going, where's a charger? I don't think I can make it home, And
wow.
it was every time I drove it, I went oscillated from initially loving the look, loving the driving dynamics, loving the interior ergonomics and design to massive stress about where I was going to run out of energy and how quickly I could get to a charger before
It's
that
a
happened.
shame. It's a shame. I think the bus could have been an easy big seller. And I talked to the product planner separately. I said, this is off the record. I said to him, I said,
Mhm.
I just want to know, why can't you make an extended range or a hybrid version of this? And he told me they invested so much in this bus and they took so long to get it to market that they're kind of
Yeah.
stuck, which is really a shame because if that had a range extender on it, you'd be able to
Oh
sell them here in
gosh.
the US all day long.
I'd be all over that thing if it had a range extender,
Oh,
and I
I
think a
would
lot of
too.
people would. I think a
It'd
lot
be
of people would. And
fun.
of course, you and I have joked about how if Tesla wants to make its stock shoot up, all they got to do is announce that they're going to start producing range extenders. And I think their stocks and bounces around. Who knows where it is today, given how much it changes. But I think that'd be a long-term investment that would really pay off for them.
That
All
we
right,
have to,
we're
we
gonna
have to get the message to Elon.
yeah, let's tell Elon. All right, we're going to take a break here, and we are going to be right back. We've got plenty more to talk about. A lot has happened, and a lot's going to happen in the next year. So join us right back here after the break on The Drive with Lauren and Karl.
Welcome back to the Drive with Lauren and Karl. This segment brought to you by Car Coach Reports. From the headlines to your driveway, Car Coach Reports offers straight talk on cars, trucks, and tech that matter to you. No filters, no spin, just smart advice you can trust. Subscribe to Car Coach Reports on YouTube and watch all my car reviews on Car Smarts on YouTube. Now, Karl, we've been talking about a lot that's happened in 25, and there's a massive impact for 2026. And I think that's people don't realize what happens in one year really truly makes an impact from tariffs to Chinese cars.
Yeah. Yeah. And those two things are both huge issues that a lot of people were wondering about in 25, including people sitting at kind of the top of the org chart for the US
Yeah.
and wanted to take an aggressive approach to avoid what they saw happening, what we're all seeing happening in other markets, right? I mean, South America is basically starting to be overrun by the Chinese automotive industry, and Europe too.
Yeah.
And Europe
It's
was very
bad.
nervous about it. And of course, the US, we already had a certain amount of protection. We've got dealer franchise laws, so you can't be a Chinese car company and just come in and start selling cars. You got to have a dealer network, which that alone puts a big halt on it. But now there are very aggressive tariffs in place, not just on food and a lot of the other things, but we've seen get tariffed in the last 6 to 8 months, but also specifically Chinese cars.
Right. And Canada has 100% tariff on Chinese cars. So while we drove the Polestar 4 there, the first thing they told us was they're not going to bring Chinese cars here. So how they bypass that is they build them in Busan in South Korea and they bring them here.
Mhm.
They also have a plant here in the US. So Polestar is sort of the sister company of Volvo because they're owned by a Chinese car company. But it's funny. There was like, what, 220 plus Chinese car brands, and they're all subsidized by the Chinese government. So if they were
Yeah.
to come into the US, it might sound good for consumers. I've had a lot of people say, oh, we should bring them in. I can get, $20,000 cars. But like, what are you getting for your money? And you and I have
Right.
driven these cars.
Well, and I think the cars have gotten far more impressive. One of the things I think people to forget about, and again, and it's such an obvious thing, and a lot of people saw it coming. I would claim myself as one of those. Was
Mm.
China was very happy to embrace foreign automakers 20 years ago, 25 years ago,
Mhm.
but only if they would partner with a Chinese automaker and share everything they were doing. Okay, what they did is they really shortened the learning curve on how to make cars worth a damn. And after they've got it all figured out, which was probably in the last 10 years, then what did they do? oh, they shifted all of their focus and told all their citizens, which you can do much easier in
Yeah.
China than say the U.S., to only buy from the home country.
Yeah.
And we've watched the complete eradication of market share for General Motors, for
Oh, yeah.
Volkswagen, for Lincoln, all these companies that
Buick.
had a massive Buick.
Yeah.
They're all falling apart in China because the Chinese don't need us anymore. They figured it out. And you talk about their cars, and we've driven them recently. I'm still not sure, about a 10-year ownership of a Chinese car. I'm not sure where you're going to end up after 10
We
years.
don't know that.
But
There's not many that are that old. So we
no,
really don't have anything to
exactly. Yeah, they
reference.
were barely making their own cars 10 years ago. So we don't really know what's going to happen, but we certainly know that from first impression, what you pay and what you get, they have every advantage, apparently, over US and European and the rest of the Asian car markets. Now, a lot of
I
people,
wonder how they're going to hold up. I mean, that's one thing we
that's a
don't
huge
know. Is it going to
question.
be like buying something at, I hate to use Walmart as an example, you buy something that was made in China versus something that was made here in the US? It may be less expensive. Of course, it's subsidized by the Chinese government. That's how they stay in
Right.
business. And even some of their car brands have disappeared. How is it going to hold up 5 years from
Well,
now?
that's the question. I mean, you mentioned earlier in the show the 10-year, 100,000-mile warranty by Hyundai and Kia products and all, which I think was a great move by them because it really helped establish their reputation for making high quality vehicles. I'm not sure what a 10-year, 100,000-mile warranty would cost the Chinese, and I don't think they'd ever put one on their cars, at least not now. But
Right.
the other thing that I always want to bring up is that you hear a lot of people saying, well, we're just like avoiding the inevitable and we're not competing on a level field and tariffs should go away and all this stuff. Okay, you want to compete on a level playing field with China? Okay.
You're
How
done.
about no minimum wage, no labor unions? How about healthcare, overtime?
Bad working conditions,
Yeah, questionable working conditions, and then we can get into other things too, like freedom of speech and all these other things.
child labor. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you're right. We can't compete with China. No, we can't. And thank your lucky stars that we aren't even trying, because there's a
Right.
lot of people in this country who the basic steps you'd have to take for us to compete with China might go against some of their core beliefs in terms of human existence and quality of life.
And it's
So,
funny because a lot of people that are journalists that we hang out with, they think that's the way to go to bring all these Chinese cars. And it's not good because if they do come in here and they lowball the market, it will cost us jobs. It'll hurt our economy.
yes.
And maybe cars are cheaper for you if you can afford it. That's the one thing no
Yeah.
one thinks about it.
Well, and it's the standard monopoly play, right? That's what you do. If you've got the ability to undercut the competition long enough to put them out of business, even if you're losing money too, but you've got the ability to lose money longer than they do, then they're all gone. Then what will the price be? You think the Chinese are going to put all these other car companies out of business across the globe and keep their prices low once that's happened? So there's no good end to this story, except to say, if you guys are going to play games like subsidizing with and full alignment between your government and your auto industry to undercut our prices, we're going to play games, and it's called a tariff. And you're not going to come into this country with that kind of a business model. So
Right. That's what President Trump did, and everyone was against it. But the results are we have a lot of cash flow available, which has been given to not just the military, but also used to pay some expenses when they had that government shutdown. So there's a lot of things that tariffs can do. And that's what they did back in 1913. That was the last year we had tariffs, and there was no federal taxes. I'm in for that
yeah.
if they want to make that happen.
Well, if you want a picture of what happens if you don't do this, look to Europe. Market share has been overrun, and Volkswagen, for the first time in the company's 88-year history, has closed down a domestic German assembly plant for vehicles.
Yeah,
Never
that's
before has that
bad.
happened. And you've got even a better preview. Look at Britain, right? Britain used to make how many different cars and
They don't
different car
make cars
brands and
anymore.
motorcycle brands,
Mhm.
and you can't do it anymore because they can't compete. So,
Right.
all right, we're gonna take another break here and pay some bills, but we'll be back with more stories. We're gonna start looking forward at 26. We've looked a lot at 25. Now we're gonna look forward at 26 coming up after the break with The Drive with Lauren and Karl. Welcome back to The Drive with Lauren and Karl. I'm Karl Brauer, and I've got my great host here. Say hi, Lauren Fix.
Hello. Yeah, there's a lot going on this year.
There's a
We have
lot
been
going on.
so busy traveling the world, but not just that. 2026 is going to change the automotive industry for consumers, and that's a good thing.
Yeah, I do. I think one of the big things we're going to see in 26, and we've already gotten a taste of it we had a taste of it in late 25, was not just the pivot away from electric vehicles, but the pivot toward hybrid vehicles and even plug-in hybrids, and what the new term that we're starting to hear much more is range extended vehicles. And all you got to do is look around. In the past 3 years, I'm going to say, with the redesign of the Camry, one of the best-selling sedans in this country, and now the redesign recently for 26 of the RAV4, the best-selling vehicle in this country, short of the big three trucks that are always the top three, the Ram, the Silverado, and the F-150. The next best-selling vehicle after those, and has been, I believe, for the last 8 years, is the Toyota RAV4. And you cannot get a hybrid version of the RAV4 for 26 because the redesign made every one of them a hybrid. So if you didn't already think Toyota was all in on hybrids, try to go buy a new RAV4 and tell them that you don't want a hybrid. They'll say, well, no, I can't sell you one.
Well, they offer plugins. They offer plugins. But when I asked what the mix was, in other words, what do they sell? They said currently it's 80-20. So 80% regular hybrids that people don't know the difference. You can just drive it and enjoy it. And then the 20% of people that would like to plug in. So that's an interesting mix. And I've asked every brand, and some people still want to plug in because they don't want to pay for the electricity. But if you're a pure hybrid, you're not paying to plug in for the electricity, which is getting more expensive as well.
Right. And don't forget too that a lot of times people have been saying, well, these plug-in hybrid vehicles, they're not being plugged in. And I think that's the rallying cry of the EV proponents that don't want people to even think about buying a plug-in hybrid. Because the other thing that the EV proponents said for years was, why is everyone so hung up on range? The average person doesn't need more than 30 to 40 miles a day. Well, if you buy a plug-in hybrid that has 40 plus miles of range before the engine comes on, then according to the electric vehicle proponents, you're mostly driving an electric vehicle. And so they hate the people who really want electric vehicles to take over. They hate the idea that someone could drive an electric vehicle 90% of the time and not emit any CO2. And then all of a sudden grandma's sick 400 miles away and you don't have time to get on a plane. You got to go now. And you get in that same vehicle and start driving and don't even think about range anxiety because it still has an engine and it can go 400 miles and you just put gas in it for a 5 to 7 minute stop on your way to grandma's. So plug-in hybrids, if you're trying to do the widest range of things, I'm trying to be as electric vehicle oriented and non-CO2 emitting as oriented, and I'm trying to never experience range anxiety. We're all done here with the discussion. There's one option. It's called a plug-in hybrid. We're all done. Yeah. And they don't like thinking about that because they know that that's the one that and I've said this before, the best diet is the one you're going to maintain. The best workout regimen is the one you'll actually stick to. The best way to supposedly reduce CO2 and not hurt the planet is a car that can sell to more than 8% of the market. And that's a hybrid or a plug-in hybrid. Is not an electric vehicle.
Yeah, personally, I'm in for the regular hybrid, and we all used to laugh at the Prius. Oh, ha, ha, ha. Nobody liked the Prius. Well, the new Prius, as we've all driven, has won a ton of awards. It is very impressive. Or any of the hybrids that don't plug in are my personal favorites. When people ask, I say, if you're going to lease, it's the way to go. If you're thinking about the plug-in hybrid, personally, I know you like them, Karl. They just don't do it for me. I don't want to plug anything in. I want to get in my car. I want to go. Yeah. I don't want to forget to plug it in or, the range isn't enough, or I got to go find a place to plug in, or I come to your house for dinner and say, hey, can I plug my car in? Really? That's so weird.
But remember, the thing I always want consumers to know is you never have to plug them in if you don't want to. You should. You're going to get better mileage and you'll make the EV components not have that fuel of saying people aren't plugging them in. They're just driving them like regular cars. But if you don't want to plug them in, then you should just buy a regular hybrid because you're going to pay more for the plug-in option and then you're not using it. But, I feel like, and I feel weird when I hear these words come out of my mouth because for years I wasn't a big fan of them either. But the Toyota Prius is one of my favorite cars right now. I just think whether it's the styling, the driving.
You feeling
dynamics,
okay, Karl? No, I'm just kidding.
Exactly. Well, it's like Alan said.
You're a performance guy like me.
Yeah, I know. When Alan found out I'd leased that Fiat 500e years ago, he's like, call the police. Somebody kidnapped Karl. So, but
the aliens have taken you away.
Exactly. It's a doppelganger. Kill him. But yeah, I'm a big fan of the new Prius because it's like, if I just want a car that looks good, it looks really cool. If I want a car that drives well, it drives really well. It's very engaging to drive and it's kind of fast. If I want a car that's got a lot of functionality, it's a hatchback. You can lift up the rear hatch and put a lot of stuff in there. If I want a car that gets 50 plus miles to the gallon when it's running on its engine, it does that. And if I want a car that's kind of like an electric car and I can drive it for months without putting any gas in it, because I never went over 40 miles during my daily commute and plugged it in at night, it does that too. So, by the way, the base model, what's the average price of a new car right now, Lauren? $50,000?
$50,000, yeah.
What's the base model plug-in hybrid? Not even the hybrid, the plug-in hybrid of the Toyota Prius.
The regular plug-in is more expensive than the regular Prius.
Right, but the more expensive plug-in hybrid Toyota Prius, $35,000.
I know that they know what they're doing, and that's no $7,500 tax credit anymore.
No 75. I don't know how you argue with this car. I just don't know how you argue against this car. It does too many things too well that no other car can really do. So,
But you know what's
I'm a
funny
fan.
is we always talk this what's going on. What we see on the other end is what we see every single year at automotive shows. Big performance.
Yeah,
They're bringing back the Hemi.
it's
They
coming
s-
back.
the Ram TRX. If you bought one, I'm really sorry. You're probably not a happy person. I own a Raptor R. I like gasoline powered vehicles, but all these big performance vehicles are still out there. They're still making them. The Mustang
Yeah.
is still out there. My guess is we might see the Camaro come back. I'm hoping it's not an SUV. Please no.
I know, I know. I can't believe they're thinking of doing that. And also the Challenger, as you know, I'm a bit of a
Yep.
Challenger fan, and I think that
Yep.
one's going to come back too. It's going to be interesting to see what
Big
platform
car.
it's on.
Yeah.
Yeah, whether are they going to make it smaller and lighter? That's the biggest argument that I'll Apple happily absorb for the Challenger is that it was always a big car. If you buy a Dodge Demon, all you're doing is going in a straight line. That's okay. It's much worse when you have big, heavy cars that are supposed to supposedly go around corners, but we won't get into that. There's just certain models
That's
out
a
there that
whole
I.
conversation. I
That's a whole
covered
other
that.
conversation. I'll get
Great
myself in
drag
trouble.
car. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great drag
Transferring
car.
weight from the front to the rear,
Hey,
Charger's the way to go.
yeah. You get, well, I mean, the Challenger Demon, it pulls a potential 8 second quarter mile. So I don't know how you
That's
argue with that.
fast. That's darn fast. Yeah.
But just the return, as I like to say, Hemi days are here again. So I'm very
Ah, I like
excited
that.
that that we're going to have performance coming back, and
Yay.
yet you can still go buy a $35,000 plug-in Toyota Prius and have a very fun, cool-looking, functional car to drive if that's what you want to. And I think that's the world we should live in. Believe it or not, Lauren, consumer choice might be the best solution of all.
What a concept. I keep saying that that's the reason that electric vehicles failed. People didn't want them. They thought it was
Yeah,
great at first. They loved the technology. Then they realized, how much is the insurance?
right,
Where do I have to charge? I live in
right.
the upper half of the country. That doesn't work for me. But
Right. What
there's
happens
a
when it
lot
gets
coming.
cold? What happens when it gets cold? What happens when it gets super hot? What happens when the grid goes down? It becomes very troublesome with an electric car.
Right. We're going to take a break, pay some bills. We'll be right back. We've got some more good information about what you're going to be seeing on the streets for 2026 on the drive with Lauren and Karl. Welcome back to the drive with Lauren and Karl. This segment brought to you by Issy Tire Socks. When the winter roads are dangerous, you need to get a grip. Issy Tire Socks offer instant traction on ice and snow and are easy to install, just like a pair of socks. Keep them in your trunk and be prepared. Available now at Amazon and Walmart. Issy Tire Socks. That's ISSE. Really, Issy. Now, we've been talking about all the things coming in the future, and I've had a lot of people email me and ask, when are we going to see autonomous cars? And this is where you and I differ, Karl. I think we're far from it, and there's a couple reasons why we're not going to see them so quickly.
Yeah, and I had that exact opinion probably until only about last 6 months have I shifted on this, Lauren, because I heard from a senior executive or a senior engineer at one of the big automakers, one of the big domestic automakers, and I asked him, when are we going to see self-driving cars? And he was in charge of the advanced driver assist systems at this company, and he
Mhm.
said 10 years. 10 plus years. And that was in the past 6 or 8 months. And I was like, yeah, that sounds right to me. I mean, there's a lot going on when you're on the road, as you and I know, and the human brain is still the best computer ever, and we can deal with
True.
it. And there's all these circumstances that all you need is one slight variation on everything that the computer thinks it's got figured out, and you have a self-driving car that doesn't know what to do, or worse. So that was my opinion. But I'm watching what's happening, and I'm not. We know there's a history of the self-driving, quote unquote, full self-driving system from Tesla, but I'm seeing where people are going with these cars and what they're getting them to do, and it's starting to surprise me. And I do know that AI is shortening the curve for a lot of things. Every time I interact with it on the computer or I see what it's doing for other people, I'm impressed and maybe a little frightened at
Mhm.
its capabilities. And I think what I thought until recently was a 5+ year, 10 year timeline for full self-driving cars might get shortened far much quicker than I would have thought. But that's my opinion.
All right, here are the reasons why you're not going to see full self-driving or autonomous cars on the road. Besides the fact that every vehicle would have to be autonomous, which means you can't drive your Demon and I can't drive my Mustangs. That's not going to happen because you and I aren't giving up our cars. So until that happens, it's the only way to make it 100% foolproof. But here's a big problem, and this is what no one's talking about. The government doesn't have regulations as of today for self-driving cars. There's nothing. They've talked about it, but nothing has actually been in writing. And so the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Department of Transportation have nothing in writing. Okay, we can resolve that. Second, insurance companies, they don't like it. Whose fault is it? Is it your fault? Is it my fault? Is it the car company's fault? The software? Who's at fault? And the people that insure the insurance companies are called reinsurance companies. They don't like it either. All right, maybe we can come up with a solution for that. Now we have a bigger issue. Hackers. Hackers have been able to get through anything. They've hacked Teslas, they've hacked Jeeps, they can hack anything, including the Pentagon, the federal government, you name it. So until you can come up with a permanent firewall, we're all in our vehicles, we're minding our own business, and suddenly we're all crashing, sort of like the movie Leave the World Behind. Until that happens, and I know that may sound way far out, but you need to protect the people in that vehicle, and they need to be able to communicate without somebody else's interference. That's a huge factor. The other factor is, because I live in Buffalo and this happens a lot here, and things don't work when this happens, and cameras are covered late, the LiDAR, the radar, whatever it is, doesn't work. It's because of weather conditions that happen. And let me tell you, the only job you can't get fired from on a daily basis and be wrong every single day is the weatherman. The weather person could be wrong every single day. And what happens? They keep their job. You and I can't do that.
Yeah. And the cars can't do that. And the cars carrying people hopefully safely can't do that either, can they, Lauren?
Right. And so if that LiDAR or the front of the car is covered with snow, or it's raining heavily, or you're in a sandstorm, or any type of weather condition that would cause ice or snow, or anything that would blind those cameras, they can't communicate. And I've been in an autonomous car, as well as one of our guests, Henry Payne, has been in a car. When it starts raining, it pulls over, puts on its four ways, and says a manned driver is coming. So that's a huge factor that you can't control. So that now the one last thing that just happened, and you and I have covered this a lot, is in San Francisco, there was a power outage in December. And the result of that was Waymos just stopped. Now, the only car brand that was working was Tesla, because they use Starlink as a backup. Waymo doesn't have a backup. Yeah, they might get through it. Maybe they'll use Starlink. But if you're in that vehicle, the panic that would come into your mind of, oh, there's no power. How do I get out of this car? Am I getting out in the middle of a highway, in the middle of an intersection? I don't want to get hit by another car, but will the car even let you out?
Yeah.
I mean, these are huge factors, especially if you've got someone, your wife's having a baby, your mom's sick, you're taking your animal to the vet, whatever it might be, you're sick, you're injured, you need to get to the hospital, all those type of little things you don't think about, all these scenarios that happen are just as bad as the kill switch. And these are the things that scare the heck out of people, and they have to be willing to accept all the ramifications that go with it.
Well, you're 100% right on that. And I do feel like one of the things that's lurking out there, and I'm not saying this has to happen, but I feel like it's very possible. Think back to the tragedy with the Lexus and the 4 people that were in it, and the pedal got stuck.
Yes.
By the way, had nothing to do with Lexus or Toyota or designs. Some idiot put the wrong floor mat in there and it jammed the pedal down. It was not the car's fault. But the bottom line is, it was a very high profile death of 4 people that was caught on tape, and it caused a massive fallout, as you know, for unintended acceleration, which didn't exist for Toyota and all this stuff. With the cameras and everything else that everyone has these days, you and I both know, all it's going to take is one high profile, well captured visual image of something terrible. You were just talking about pregnant women and all that. You know, there's kids out there in the world, we know, something really bad happening as a result of a quote unquote self-driving car caught on film and very graphic and for everyone to see. And it could slow the whole thing down back to my 10+ year timeline that you and I are thinking is still a possibility.
It's a lot. There's a lot of factors.
I don't want that to happen, by the way. I'm not saying I want that to happen. And I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm saying
it could
that
happen.
Potential exists, and it all it would take is one of those, and it would really shift the timeline for autonomous technology.
I will. And I think the brands are aware of that, because they don't want to be responsible. And those are things you need to think about before you say, yes, let's go get self-driving cars. Maybe 100%. Not just yet. It's an amusement ride.
Yeah, and an amusing technology, but I don't think it's ready for prime time yet, as San Francisco found out recently.
Yes.
All right, we're going to take another break. We will be back again after that break with another segment on The Drive with Lauren and Karl.
Welcome back to The Drive with Lauren and Karl. This segment brought to you by Car Coach Reports, where you get the unfiltered truth of automotive news. Check it out on YouTube, Car Coach Reports, and all my car reviews are on Car Smarts. Now, we have an interesting guest, and when I heard about this company, it didn't really click. It's called Yazaki, but there's a lot more to this, and most of your products that are in your car might be from them. So I'd like to bring in Eric Fleming, who is the CEO of Yazaki, to tell you about this really interesting company and some great ideas they have coming to your home in the near future. Eric, thanks for joining us on the show.
Hi, Lauren. Thank you for allowing me to talk to you and talk to you about Yazaki.
Yeah.
So, for the people that have never heard about Yazaki Corporation, we're a $17 billion company, 84 years old,
Wow.
287,000 employees.
Wow.
And our major product is wire harnessing and connection systems for the automotive industry. So basically every other car in the world has our product in it. And what we do is
Really?
we connect anything electrical in the car. So from your switch on your window to the motor that drives the window, et cetera, et cetera. So that's our backbone product and technology.
So pretty much every car on the road is using your product.
Yeah, mostly.
That's
There's one,
That's impressive.
yeah, and that's why we have 200 plus factories around the world.
Wow. All right. So because you do wiring harnesses, which is your
Mhm.
expertise, and obviously all the brands rely and trust your work and your product, uh, tell us what you're working on. Because when I heard about this, I said, this is really interesting, and our listeners really need to hear of this.
Well, as such a large company, we have many divisions around the world, and we have a huge group in North America in Canton, Michigan,
Mhm.
and they basically take care of all the massive OEMs that we work with. And at one point, we decided, or the Yazaki family decided, we needed to start looking at doing different things and innovating, trying to move faster in some ways, and look at different markets. So that's where I come in. And my group is called Yazaki Innovations, or YII.
Mhm.
And our charter is obviously to support some existing customers more on the EV side, more on the technology forward side, but also to diversify the industries that we're looking or we've been working in. And how do you diversify? Well, you have to innovate. You have to
Right.
develop new products. You have to look at potential startups out there that have new technologies that you can invest in or partner with to bring new things to our customer base, current customer base, and our new targeted customer base.
So tell us what you came up with, because I think this was brilliant, to be honest with you. So kudos to those who came up with this idea.
So one of the coolest new products that we have is called prefab. And if you think of your car, or if you think of the wire harnessing in your car, it comes pre-made. It
Mhm.
gets to the car factory, the automotive, the factory, the assembly factory, and it snaps right into the car. So
Right.
you're not literally individually wiring the car yourself. It's all pre-made. So we thought, well, we could do this for the housing market. So what prefab is basically a wired product that's assembled in a factory. You get all the controls that you would have in a factory, i.e., the quality, i.e., the efficiencies, and so forth. Then that wire bundle or wire harness is sent to the home site, and it's basically snapped into the home. Snap is one word,
Sorry.
assembled, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And then voila, you have a fully wired house without laborers and so forth going and running individual wires and cutting wires and so forth. So it's something
Wow.
that we've been doing for the past year and a half, and it's pretty exciting to the industry.
So if you think about some of these neighborhoods where the homes are pretty much the same and they're building them quickly because there's a housing shortage, and you start looking at, an electrician wiring each house must take hours and hours. What kind of time savings is that?
Currently, we're working trials because you have to make everything better all the time
Oh,
and
well, it's true with
innovate.
anything, I would hope. Yeah.
Right now, we're on par, but the target is to be 20 to 30% quicker and faster.
Wow. So
And
that
remember,
means homes can be
I'm
built quicker.
right, and I remember you said housing shortage. There's also a labor shortage as well,
That
especially in
is
the
true.
trades.
That is
Yeah.
true. And so this would allow people like wiring harnesses on the assembly line to be able to put them in. And I think that's why Yazaki Innovations, this is genius. I've never heard of this before. We all see homes and neighborhoods get built, but this is something that's really smart. And I thank you for sharing your innovations. When you have more cool innovations, please come back to the show, because that's the kind of thing that makes life easier for everybody.
My pleasure. Thank you.
All right. Thanks for joining us today.
You've been listening to The Drive, your trusted source for the latest car news, expert reviews, and real insights into the automotive world. Thanks for riding along with us today. You can check out the entire archive of every episode on our YouTube channel, The Drive with Lauren and Karl. Be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode and join the conversation by leaving your comments. We love hearing from you. Until next time, stay safe, enjoy the ride, and we'll see you right back here on The Drive.